I don't know where else to turn, so I'm putting this out there, hoping someone can tell me what to do. For the past 6 months, something has been watching me, following me, circling my property every single night. I know how this sounds, but I'm not crazy and I'm not making this up. There's a Bigfoot stalking me, and I'm trapped here with no way out and no idea what to do about it. Every night when the sun goes down, I sit in my cabin and wait for it to come back. And it always does. I can't leave. I'm broke. Selling this place would take months even if I could find a buyer, which I can't. I tried going to the sheriff about a trespasser, and they basically laughed me out of the station, said nobody trespasses on property this remote. My family thinks I'm having some kind of breakdown. I'm completely alone in this, and this thing is getting bolder every single day. Last night it stood on my porch for 10 minutes, just outside my door. I watched through the peephole, too terrified to even breathe. So I'm asking you seriously, what would you do? What should I do? Because I feel like I'm running out of time here, and I don't know how much longer I can take this. Let me start from the beginning and tell you everything that's happened. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar and can give me some guidance, because right now I'm completely lost. 6 months ago, I lost my job. It was one of those situations where the whole department got cut, nothing I could do about it. I had some savings, but not enough to keep my apartment in the city, so I started looking for something cheap and temporary, just a place to lay low while I figured out my next move. That's when I found this cabin listing, way up in the Pacific Northwest, miles from anywhere. The price was dirt cheap because it was so isolated. No neighbors, no cell service, spotty internet at best. You have to drive 40 minutes on logging roads just to reach the nearest small town. At the time, it seemed perfect. I could live cheap, save what little money I had left, and take some time to think about what I wanted to do with my life. The cabin itself was old but solid. One big room with a wood stove, a tiny bathroom, a loft for sleeping. Surrounded by forest on all sides, nothing but trees as far as you could see. The real estate agent told me the last owner had died and the family just wanted to unload it. That should have been my first warning, but I was desperate and the price was right. I signed the papers and moved in 3 days later with everything I owned stuffed into my old pickup truck. The first few weeks were actually peaceful. I'd wake up to birdsong, spend my days chopping wood and fixing up the place, go to sleep under more stars than I'd ever seen in my life. It was quiet. Really quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you realize how much noise you're used to living with. No traffic, no sirens, no neighbors playing loud music. Just wind in the trees and the occasional owl hooting in the distance. For a while, I thought I'd made the right choice. The cabin needed work, but it was livable. The wood stove kept me warm at night. I had enough supplies to last a few weeks. It felt like a fresh start, a chance to reset my life. Then things started getting weird. It was small stuff at first. I'd stack firewood a certain way, neat rows with the split ends facing out, and the next morning it would be rearranged. Not knocked over like an animal had gotten into it, but actually restacked in a different pattern. The wood would still be stacked, just in a totally different configuration. Tools would go missing from my shed. A hammer one day, a handsaw another day. They'd turn up a few days later in strange places, like on my porch steps or leaning against a tree. I figured maybe the previous owner's family had come back for some things, or maybe there were some kids from town playing pranks. Annoying, but nothing to really worry about. Then I started hearing the footsteps at night. Heavy footsteps walking around the cabin. At first I thought it was deer or elk. We've got plenty of those up here, and I'd see them sometimes during the day grazing in the clearings. But deer don't walk with that kind of weight, that kind of deliberate rhythm. These footsteps circled the cabin over and over like something was pacing. I'd lie in bed listening to them, trying to convince myself it was nothing, just an animal, just the wind, just my imagination working overtime because I wasn't used to being alone in the woods. One morning I went out to my truck and found handprints all over the hood. Big handprints, way bigger than mine, pressed into the mud that had splashed up from the dirt road. I stood there staring at them, trying to make sense of it. The prints had 5 fingers, clearly defined, but they were massive. Each one was maybe twice the size of my own hand. The palm print alone was the size of a dinner plate. I took some photos on my phone, thinking maybe I'd show them to someone in town, but when I looked at them later, they just looked like smudges. The detail didn't come through on camera, it just looked like I'd smeared mud on my hood. My trash cans started getting knocked over every few nights. But here's the thing that bothered me. The contents were scattered everywhere, but nothing was actually eaten. When a bear gets into your trash, it eats the food scraps and makes a mess with the rest. This was different. It looked like something had gone through everything, examined it, then just left it all scattered around. Like it was curious but not hungry. My food wrappers would be unfolded and laid out flat. Cans would be opened and smelled but not consumed. It was methodical, almost investigative, whatever was doing. This wanted to learn about me, about what I ate and used. I noticed branches broken off trees around my property, snapped off at heights no person could reach without a ladder. 10, 12 feet up, thick branches just broken clean off. I'd find them lying in weird arrangements, sometimes stacked up or leaned against trees in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, like someone was leaving me messages I couldn't read. I kept telling myself there had to be a logical explanation, maybe a storm I'd slept through, though I never remembered hearing one. Maybe some kind of animal behavior I didn't understand, though I couldn't think of any animal that could reach that high and had the strength to snap branches that thick. But the worst part was the feeling of being watched. Every time I stepped outside, especially near sunset, I get this crawling sensation on the back of my neck. That primitive instinct that tells you you're not alone, that something is looking at you. I'd spin around, scan the tree line, but I never saw anything. Just trees and shadows and that overwhelming sense that something was out there. I started timing my trips outside, trying to get everything done quickly so I could get back inside. Chopping wood became a race against that feeling. Getting water from the well became a sprint. I felt ridiculous, but I couldn't shake the sensation that I was being observed. About a month after I moved in, I finally saw it. It was late evening, sun just starting to dip below the trees and paint everything in shades of orange and gold. I was taking my trash out to the burn barrel behind the cabin. I had my arms full of garbage bags, not really paying attention to anything except not dropping everything and making more work for myself. When I looked up, there it was, standing at the tree line, maybe 50 yards away. Just standing there, completely still, watching me. The thing was huge. I'm talking 8 feet tall, maybe more. Covered in dark fur, almost black in the fading light. It had a human shape, standing upright on 2 legs, but the proportions were all wrong. Arms too long, reaching down past its knees. Shoulders too broad, maybe 4 feet across. Head that seemed to sit directly on those massive shoulders with barely any neck. The face was dark and flat, almost ape-like, but not quite. For a few seconds, I just stood there, frozen, garbage bags forgotten. My brain was trying to process what I was seeing, trying to come up with any explanation that made sense. It didn't move, didn't make a sound. Just stood there staring at me with these dark eyes that caught the last rays of sunlight. I could see its chest moving as it breathed, slow and steady. The fur rippled slightly in the evening breeze. I convinced myself it had to be a shadow, a trick of the light, maybe a weirdly shaped tree I hadn't noticed before. I blinked hard, looked away, looked back. It was still there, solid and real and impossible. Then I blinked again, and it was gone. Just vanished, like it had never been there at all. No sound of movement, no crashing through the underbrush. It was just gone. I dropped the trash right there and ran back inside. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get the key in the lock. Once inside, I checked every window, made sure they were all latched. I grabbed the biggest kitchen knife I had and just held it, sitting on my couch, staring at the door. I barely slept that night. Every sound had me sitting bolt upright in bed, knife in hand, heart pounding. And there were a lot of sounds. Footsteps on the porch, heavy and deliberate. Something scratching at the walls, long, slow drags like claws on wood. Heavy breathing right outside my bedroom window, so close I could hear each individual breath. I sat there in the dark, too terrified to even get up and look out, just waiting for dawn. When the sun finally came up, I worked up the courage to go outside. I found tracks everywhere. Huge footprints in the soft dirt around the cabin, leading to and from the tree line. Each print was maybe 18 inches long, clearly showing 5 toes, a heel, an arch. They were deeper than any human footprint would be, pressed into the earth by something incredibly heavy. The stride length between prints was massive, maybe 4 or 5 feet. Whatever made these tracks was big and strong and had walked all the way around my cabin multiple times during the night. That's when I knew for sure. This wasn't my imagination. This wasn't some weird animal. There was a Bigfoot out there, and it was watching me. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. All those stories I had heard growing up, the legends and sightings and blurry photographs, they were real. And one of these creatures had found me. After that first clear sighting, things escalated fast. The Bigfoot started showing up more frequently and always at dusk or dawn. I'd see it standing at different spots around the property. First at the tree line where I'd seen it that first time, 50 yards away. Then a few days later near my shed, maybe 30 yards out. Then by the woodpile, only 20 yards from my porch. Each time it was closer than before. Each time it would just stand there watching me, not making any threatening moves, but also not leaving. It would stay for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes longer, just observing me going about my day. I stopped going outside after dark completely. Didn't matter if I needed more firewood or forgot something in the truck or heard a strange noise I wanted to investigate. Once the sun set, I stayed inside. But I could hear it out there, walking around, circling the cabin. The footsteps had become familiar, that heavy, rhythmic tread. Sometimes I'd work up the courage to peek out through the curtains, moving them aside just a fraction of an inch. A few times I saw a shadow moving past the windows, this massive dark shape that blocked out the moonlight. Once I saw it standing in my yard, perfectly still, staring at the cabin. I don't know if it could see me through the window, but I felt like it could, like it knew exactly where I was. The knocking started around week 6 or 7. I'd be sitting inside reading or trying to eat dinner, and suddenly there'd be these loud knocking sounds coming from the woods. Not random knocks, but rhythmic and intentional. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more knocks. It would go on for minutes at a time, and it seemed to be coming from different directions, sometimes from the north, sometimes from the east. Like the Bigfoot was moving around out there, circling my property while announcing its presence. Or maybe there was more than one. That thought terrified me even more. If there was a whole family or group of these creatures, what chance did I have? I kept finding more handprints. On my truck door, pressed into the dust, on the well pump, outlined in mud, smeared across the cabin windows like it had pressed its palm against the glass and peered inside, trying to see what I was doing. The prints were always huge, always in places that suggested the Bigfoot was examining my stuff, learning about my life, Every morning I'd do a walk around the property and find new evidence. Footprints in the mud, sometimes so many they overlapped each other. More broken branches, some of them twisted and bent in ways that seemed impossible. Signs that something big had been moving around while I slept. The thing that really got to me was how deliberate it all seemed. This wasn't random animal behavior, some bear or mountain lion just passing through. The Bigfoot was clearly interested in me specifically, in my cabin, in my routine. It was like it was studying me, trying to figure me out. I started keeping a journal, writing down every encounter, every sign, every sound. I thought maybe if I documented everything, I could find a pattern, predict when it would show up or what it wanted. But there was no pattern I could see. Sometimes it came early in the evening, sometimes late at night, sometimes it stayed for hours, sometimes just minutes. The only constant was that it came, every single night. Week 8 was when I had my first really terrifying night. I woke up around 2 a.m. to scratching sounds on the cabin walls, not gentle scratches like a raccoon or cat might make, but deep, gouging sounds like something was dragging claws down the wood siding with real force. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I lay there in bed, covers pulled up to my chin like I was a kid afraid of the dark, listening to those awful scratching sounds move around the cabin. They'd start on one wall, drag down slowly, then stop. Then start up on another wall. It was methodical, like the Bigfoot was testing the walls, looking for weak points. Then came the footsteps, heavy, deliberate footsteps on the porch, right outside my front door. They'd pace from one end to the other, then back again, over and over in this slow, methodical pattern. I could hear the boards creaking under the weight. My porch is made of thick pine planks, and they don't creak easily, but these footsteps made them groan with each step. I grabbed my kitchen knife from the nightstand and just sat there in the darkness, too scared to even turn on a light. I didn't want it to know I was awake, didn't want to draw its attention. The breathing started maybe 20 minutes later, deep, heavy breathing right outside my bedroom window. The window was only a few feet from where I was sitting on my bed. I could hear each breath in and out, steady and slow. Something was standing right there, just on the other side of that thin wall, breathing. I could hear the air moving through what must have been massive lungs. Sometimes the breathing would speed up slightly, like it was excited or frustrated. Then it would slow down again. I couldn't bring myself to look. I just sat frozen, knife clutched in both hands, waiting for something to happen. Then the door handle started to jiggle. Just slightly at first, like something was testing it to see if it was locked, then harder, rattling in its frame. I'd locked it and even wedged a chair under the handle earlier that evening, something I'd started doing every night. The jiggling stopped after a minute, but I could hear something moving around on the porch, like it was looking for another way in. I heard it try the windows next, the same testing pressure on each one. When it found them all locked, it went back to the door and tried the handle again, harder this time. The whole door shook in its frame, but the deadbolt held. I didn't sleep at all after that. Just sat there with my knife, watching the windows, listening to every sound. The Bigfoot stayed on the porch for another hour, occasionally trying the door or scraping at the walls. When it finally left, I heard its footsteps move off the porch and around the side of the cabin. Then silence. But I didn't trust the silence. I stayed awake until dawn, watching the windows slowly lighten as the sun came up. When dawn finally came and I worked up the courage to go outside, I found deep claw marks gouged into the doorframe. 5 parallel grooves carved into the wood, each one maybe a 1/4 inch deep and a foot long. Whatever had made those marks was incredibly strong. The wood was hard pine, seasoned and tough, and these grooves were cut clean and deep. I ran my fingers over them, feeling how smooth they were, how deliberate. This wasn't damage from a bear trying to get at food. This was something trying to get in, trying to get to me. That morning, I drove into town. The 40-minute drive on those rough logging roads felt like it took hours. I needed to talk to someone, needed to do something. I went to the sheriff's office, a small building on the main street with 2 deputies and a secretary. I tried to report a trespasser. I didn't mention Bigfoot because I knew exactly how that would sound. I just said someone was coming onto my property at night, trying to get into my cabin, leaving footprints and damaging my door. I showed them photos of the claw marks on my phone. The deputy looked at me like I was insane. He was a young guy, probably fresh out of the academy, and he clearly thought I was wasting his time. He asked where exactly my property was, and when I told him, he just shook his head, said nobody trespasses on property that remote. Asked if I'd been drinking, if I was on any medications, if I had a history of mental health issues. I tried to stay calm and insisted someone was coming round at night, showed him the photos again. He glanced at them for maybe 2 seconds and said it looked like bear damage. When I said it didn't look like any bear damage I'd ever seen, he shrugged. He said if I was that worried, I should install some security cameras. Then he told me to have a good day and went back to his paperwork. I stood there for a minute, wanting to argue, but what was the point? He'd already made up his mind. I looked into security cameras while I was in town, stopped at the hardware store and asked about trail cameras, the kind hunters use. The guy working there showed me some options, but they were all battery-powered and needed SD cards. I bought 2 of them anyway, thinking maybe I could at least get some evidence. But when I got home and tried to set them up, I realized how pointless it was. My cabin barely has electricity. I run off a small generator that I turn on when I need it for lights or to charge my phone, and it's not reliable enough to power cameras 24/7. And even with trail cameras, there's no internet out there to send the footage anywhere. I'd have to manually check the memory cards, assuming the Bigfoot didn't just destroy the cameras the first night. I set them up anyway, mounted them on trees facing the cabin. Within 3 nights, both cameras were gone, just vanished, never found them again. I also looked into moving, checked my bank account, ran the numbers, and realized I was completely stuck. I'd spent almost everything I had on this place. Between the down payment, the initial repairs, and the supplies I'd bought to get through winter, I was broke. I had maybe enough money for a few tanks of gas and a couple weeks of food. Definitely not enough for first and last month's rent somewhere else. Definitely not enough to hire a real estate agent to sell the cabin, assuming I could even find a buyer. Properties this remote can sit on the market for years. Who wants to buy a cabin 40 minutes from town with no cell service, no neighbors, and apparently a Bigfoot problem? I checked into a motel in town for one night just to get some sleep somewhere I felt safe. It was a dingy place, old carpet and flickering lights, but it had solid walls and a door that locked. I slept for 12 hours straight, the first real sleep I'd gotten in weeks. But at $70 a night, I couldn't afford to keep doing that. I did the math and realized I could maybe afford 3 or 4 more nights before I'd be completely out of money. I was trapped, completely and utterly trapped in that cabin with whatever was out there. The sightings started happening more frequently and in broad daylight. That was new. That was worse. Before, the Bigfoot had only shown up at dawn or dusk, in that in-between light where you could almost convince yourself you hadn't really seen what you thought you saw. But now it was appearing in full daylight, bold and unafraid, making no attempt to hide itself. I looked out my kitchen window one afternoon, and there it was, standing next to my truck. It was running its hands over the hood, almost gentle, like it was petting it. I stood at the window, not moving, barely breathing, just watching this huge creature examine my vehicle. Its fur was a deep brown, almost black. and it was even bigger than I realized. Probably 8.5 feet tall, maybe 400 pounds of pure muscle. The muscles in its back and shoulders moved under its fur as it leaned over the truck. It opened the driver's door, which I'd forgotten to lock, and looked inside. Ran its hands over the steering wheel, the seats, examining everything with what seemed like genuine curiosity. Another time I watched it from my bedroom window as it stood by my chopping block looking at my axe. It picked up the axe, turned it over in its hands, testing the weight and balance. Its hands were enormous, easily wrapping around the handle that felt substantial in my own grip. For a terrifying moment, I thought it might use the axe on my cabin, might start chopping through my walls, but it just examined the blade, ran a finger along the edge carefully, then set it back down. It moved on to examining the firewood I'd stacked, picking up individual logs and sniffing them like it was trying to understand why I'd cut them. The Bigfoot seemed curious about everything I did, everything I used. It was studying my routine, learning about me in a way that felt deeply unsettling. I started leaving the cabin less and less. I'd look out the window before going to get firewood, scan the tree line, make sure the coast was clear. Then I'd sprint out and back as fast as I could, arms full of wood, not stopping until I was back inside with the door locked. Even then, I'd get that crawling feeling on my neck like it was watching me from somewhere I couldn't see. Maybe up in the trees, maybe behind the shed, maybe just standing in the shadows where I couldn't make it out. I noticed it would mimic my movements sometimes. If I appeared at a window, it would step closer to the cabin. If I moved from the kitchen window to the bedroom window, it would shift positions too, like it was trying to keep me in sight. It felt like being hunted, except the hunter wasn't trying to catch me yet. Just watching, waiting, learning, building up to something. I started to feel like prey, like some small animal being stalked by a predator that was in no hurry. The Bigfoot had all the time in the world. I was the one trapped here. Week 15 was the second worst night of my life. My generator died around 9 p.m., just sputtered and quit, plunging the cabin into complete darkness. I'd been meaning to get it serviced, but I kept putting it off. The nearest repair shop was in town, and I'd have to haul the generator there myself. I had a flashlight and some candles, but I didn't want to light them. Didn't want to advertise that I was home and vulnerable. So I just sat there in the dark, listening to the silence, waiting. Maybe 20 minutes after the generator quit, I heard something land on the roof, a heavy thump that shook the whole cabin and sent dust raining down from the rafters. Then footsteps, pacing back and forth right above my head. The roof creaked and groaned under whatever weight was up there. I could trace the footsteps as they moved from one end of the cabin to the other, slow and deliberate. Each step made the beams flex and the shingles scrape. I'd never realized how thin my roof was until something that heavy was walking on it. The Bigfoot stayed up there for hours. I could hear it moving around, could hear the roof timbers flexing and creaking. At one point, something started scratching at the metal chimney pipe, rattling it back and forth. The pipe runs from my wood stove up through the roof, and it's not that securely attached. The rattling got louder, and I was terrified it was going to pull the whole thing down, rain and debris falling into my cabin. I was even more terrified the whole roof was going to collapse, that I was going to be buried under broken timbers and shingles with that thing on top of me. I hid under my bed with my flashlight off, listening to those footsteps pace above me. The space under the bed was cramped and musty and filled with dust, but it felt safer than being out in the open. I thought about making a run for my truck, but I'd have to unlock the door and sprint across 20 feet of open ground in complete darkness with that thing on the roof. What if it jumped down when it heard the door open? What if it was faster than me? I didn't think I'd make it to the truck, so I just stayed there, cramped and terrified, trying to breathe quietly, waiting for the night to end. Around 4 in the morning, I heard it jump down. A heavy thud on the ground beside the cabin, so hard I felt the impact through the floor. Then footsteps moving away into the forest, crashing through the underbrush, branches snapping under its weight. I stayed under the bed until sunrise, too afraid to move, too afraid it might come back. When I finally crawled out, my whole body ached and my clothes were covered in dust. I went outside as soon as there was enough light to see. Massive footprints in the mud all around the cabin, pressed so deep they'd filled with water overnight and become little puddles. Some of them were right up against the walls, right below the windows, like the Bigfoot had been standing there peering in while I huddled under my bed. On the roof, I could see where it had walked. Shingles were cracked and displaced. The chimney pipe was bent at an angle. I was lucky the whole thing hadn't come down. I was running on empty by this point, barely sleeping more than 2 or 3 hours a night, jumping at every sound, unable to focus on anything except waiting for the next encounter. I'd given up on job applications completely, couldn't concentrate long enough to fill one out. My days became about survival, making sure I had enough firewood inside so I didn't have to go out at night, checking the perimeter every morning for new signs, trying to catch a few hours of sleep during the day when I felt safer, when the sun was up and the Bigfoot was presumably sleeping somewhere out in the woods. I tried staying in town overnight again using what little money I had left. I could only afford 2 nights and I had to use money I'd budgeted for food. But those 2 nights felt like paradise. I slept in that dingy motel room with the TV on for company, waking up every few hours just to remind myself I was safe, that there were other people nearby, that I wasn't alone in the woods with that thing. But I couldn't afford to keep doing it. On the 3rd day, I had to go back. My friends and family all lived at least 2 states away, too far to help even if they believed me, which they didn't. I made the mistake of calling my brother and trying to explain what was happening. I told him about the footprints, the handprints, the creature I'd seen. He listened for maybe 2 minutes before he interrupted. He suggested I see a therapist, asked if I was having some kind of breakdown from losing my job and my apartment. He said isolation could do weird things to people's minds, make them see things that weren't there. When I insisted it was real, he got frustrated. He said I needed to come stay with him for a while, get my head straight. But he didn't offer to help me get there. Didn't offer to send money or come get me. Just told me to sort myself out and hung up. I haven't called him since. I checked property listings online, scrolling through pages of cabins and land in the area. Nothing was selling. Listings that had been up for 6 months, a year, 2 years. And those were properties closer to town, more desirable than mine, with actual amenities like well water and solar panels. Even if I found a buyer tomorrow, it would take months to close the sale. Inspections, paperwork, negotiations, months I didn't have. Months where I'd still be trapped here with that thing coming around every night. The thought of just abandoning the place crossed my mind more than once. Pack up my truck and drive away, never come back, let the bank or whoever deal with it. But I'd lose everything I'd put into it. All my savings, gone, my credit ruined. And where would I go? I didn't have enough money to start over somewhere else. I'd be homeless, living in my truck, trying to find day labor to eat. And even that assumed the Bigfoot would let me leave. What if it followed me? What if it was waiting on the road one night when I tried to drive out? I was trapped and the Bigfoot knew it. Around week 19, the Bigfoot started approaching the cabin in broad daylight, coming closer than ever before. One morning, I looked out my front window and it was standing 20 feet from my porch, not hiding at the tree line, not lurking in shadows, just standing there in full sunlight staring at my door. It was maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, bright and clear, and this creature was standing in my yard like it owned the place. We made eye contact through the window. I couldn't look away even though every instinct told me to hide, to get away from the window. Its eyes were dark and deep-set, intelligent. Not animal eyes. There was something in that gaze that felt human, or close to human. A calculating intelligence that was assessing me, judging me, deciding something. The Bigfoot didn't break eye contact either. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 30 seconds. Then it turned slowly, deliberately, and walked back into the forest, moving with this rolling, powerful gait that covered ground fast. I watched until it disappeared into the trees. The breathing outside of my walls became a nightly occurrence. I'd be lying in bed and hear that heavy, steady breathing right up against the cabin. Sometimes on one side, sometimes on another, like it was making a circuit around the whole building. The breathing would continue for 10-15 minutes, sometimes longer. I started hearing it during the day too. I'd be making lunch and hear breathing outside the kitchen window. I'd look out and see nothing, but I knew it was there, just out of sight, maybe crouched below the window frame, maybe pressed against the wall where I couldn't see it. I found evidence it had been on my porch while I slept. Muddy footprints crossing the boards, pressed deep into the wood, scratches on the door where it had tested the handle again. One morning I found my porch chair knocked over, the cushion torn and scattered. Another morning my firewood was scattered across the porch and yard, tossed around like toys. It was getting bolder, more comfortable with being close to the cabin, close to me. The boundaries were dissolving. Soon there would be no boundaries at all. Week 21 was when it knocked on my door for the first time. I was washing dishes, middle of the afternoon, hands in warm soapy water, when I heard 3 heavy knocks on my front door. Not timid knocks like a neighbor stopping by, authoritative knocks like someone who expected an answer, someone who had a right to be there. I froze with my hands in the dishwater, soap suds dripping down my arms. 3 more knocks, just as heavy, just as deliberate. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might pass out. Was I supposed to answer it? What would happen if I opened that door? What did it want? I dried my hands slowly and moved to the door, looked through the peephole with my eye pressed against the cold metal. Nothing, just my empty porch and the forest beyond. But I could hear breathing on the other side of the door, could sense something large and alive standing just outside, just beyond my line of sight. 3 more knocks, hard enough to rattle the frame and make the hinges creak. The knocks were at the same height as my head, which meant whatever was making them was tall. Very tall. I backed away from the door and just waited. My legs felt weak and I had to sit down on the couch, still staring at the door, waiting for it to burst open. After maybe 5 minutes that felt like hours, I heard footsteps move across the porch. Slow, measured steps. Then down the porch stairs, each step making the wood creak. When I finally worked up the courage to look through the window, I saw the Bigfoot walking away into the trees. It didn't look back. That was the turning point. The knocking meant something had changed. The Bigfoot wasn't content with just watching anymore, wasn't satisfied with circling the cabin and leaving signs. It wanted interaction. It wanted a response from me. And I didn't know what to do. If I answered, what would happen? If I kept ignoring it, would it get angry? Would it escalate? I felt like I was in some kind of test, some kind of game I didn't understand the rules to. Week 22 was the absolute worst night. Worse than the night on the roof, worse than anything that had come before. I woke up to the entire cabin shaking. Something was slamming against the exterior walls with massive force, rhythmic and powerful like a battering ram. The impact made everything rattle. Dishes fell from my shelves and shattered on the floor. The windows rattled in their frames like they might break any second. I thought the whole structure was going to come down around me. thought I was going to be crushed under falling timber and broken glass. The slamming moved around the cabin, hitting each wall in sequence. Living room wall on the south side, then the bedroom wall on the east, then the back wall, then the north side. Over and over in this deliberate pattern. Each impact shook the whole building. Between the impacts, I could hear vocal sounds, deep grunts and huffing noises, almost conversational in their rhythm. Like the Bigfoot was talking to itself, or to me, in a language I couldn't understand. The sounds were frustrated, angry, demanding. This went on for over an hour. I grabbed my truck keys and my jacket, ready to make a run for it. I stood by the door with my hand on the deadbolt, waiting for my chance, planning my route to the truck. But every time I thought about opening that door and sprinting across that open ground in the dark, I'd hear another massive impact and lose my nerve. The whole cabin would shake and I'd freeze. What if the Bigfoot was waiting for exactly that? What if it wanted me to run? What if this was all a game to drive me outside where it could catch me? Finally, after what felt like forever, the slamming stopped. I heard footsteps move away from the cabin, crashing through the underbrush, branches snapping, moving fast and angry into the forest. I waited another 20 minutes before I dared to move away from the door. Sat on the floor with my back against the wall, keys still clutched in my hand, waiting for it to come back. When dawn finally came and I went outside, I found handprints covering the walls. Dozens of them pressed into the wood siding at different heights. Some were pushed so hard they'd left actual dents in the wood, the grain compressed from the pressure. The Bigfoot had been putting all its strength into those impacts, and it was a miracle the walls had held. A few more nights like that, and I wasn't sure they would. That's where I am now, week 24, 6 months into this nightmare. The Bigfoot comes around every single night now, no exceptions. I can set my watch by it. As soon as the sun starts to go down, I hear it moving through the forest, circling the property. It appears multiple times throughout the evening, sometimes just standing at the tree line like it used to, sometimes coming right up to the cabin. Sometimes it stays for a few minutes, sometimes for hours. I never know what to expect. Yesterday, it stood on my porch for 10 full minutes. I watched through the peephole, not daring to move or make a sound. It was just standing there, facing my door, so close I could have reached out and touched it if there hadn't been 2 inches of wood between us. I could see the individual hairs in its fur, dark brown and black mixed together, coarse and thick. I could see its massive chest rising and falling with each breath. I could see its hands hanging at its sides, fingers long and strong. It knew I was watching it. I'm certain of that. It wanted me to watch. This was a message, a statement. It was showing me that nothing separated us except a door, and that door wouldn't hold forever. The intelligence in its eyes is what scares me most. This isn't some dumb animal acting on instinct, doing what animals do. The Bigfoot is thinking, planning, making decisions. I can see it in the way it moves, the way it studies things, the way it's systematically testing my boundaries. Each encounter is more bold than the last. Each visit is closer, longer, more invasive. It's building a relationship with me, whether I want it or not. And I have no idea where this relationship is heading. It feels like it's working up the courage for something, or maybe it's waiting for me to make a mistake, to leave a window unlocked, or forget to bar the door, or get complacent. I don't know what it wants, I don't know what it's planning, but I feel like we're building towards some kind of conclusion, and I don't think it's going to be good for me. Every night the tension builds. Every night I sit here wondering if this is the night it decides to come in. I've thought about confronting it with a gun. I don't own one, but I could probably borrow one from someone in town. Tell them I've got a bear problem, which isn't even a lie. But what if that just makes it angry? What if I shoot it and don't kill it? And then I've got an injured, enraged Bigfoot with a reason to hurt me. What if there's more than one of them out there and the others come looking for revenge? I've heard stories about Bigfoot being found in family groups. What if this is just one member of a larger clan? What if hurting it brings the whole group down on me? I've thought about leaving everything and just living in my truck. But winter is coming. It gets down to 20 below zero up here, colder with wind chill. My truck doesn't have the insulation to survive that. I'd freeze to death in a few hours even with the engine running. And running the engine all night would burn through gas faster than I could afford, or the Bigfoot would find me anyway. It already knows my truck, has examined it multiple times, looked inside, touched it. Living in it wouldn't protect me. It might even make things worse. I looked into emergency relocation assistance, programs that help people in crisis situations find temporary housing. I called every number I could find, explained my situation as best I could without mentioning Bigfoot. Said I was being harassed, that someone was threatening me, that I didn't feel safe. I don't qualify for any of them. Wrong circumstances, wrong criteria. You need to be a victim of domestic violence, or homeless, or disabled. Being stalked by a Bigfoot isn't on their list. The social worker I talked to suggested I contact family or friends for help. I explained that wasn't an option, that I had nobody nearby. She just shrugged apologetically and said she was sorry, but there was nothing she could do. I called my family again, tried one more time to explain what was happening. I called my dad this time instead of my brother, told him everything, all the details, the footprints, the handprints, the breathing, the knocking, the creature I'd seen. He listened more patiently than my brother had, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. He thinks I'm having a breakdown. He suggested I come stay with him for a while, get my head straight, see a doctor. But they live in Florida, across the country. I don't have gas money to get there. I don't have money for food along the way. I'd be driving for 3 days on empty highways with no money and no plan. Besides, what happens to my cabin, my property, everything I own if I leave? The Bigfoot wins, I lose everything. The bank forecloses, and I'm homeless anyway. Just homeless in Florida instead of here. I tried the sheriff one more time, drove into town and went to the office, asked to speak to whoever was in charge. A tired-looking sergeant came out and listened to my story. I begged them to at least send someone out to look at the damage to my cabin, the claw marks on my door, the dents in my walls. I showed him photos on my phone. He looked at them for maybe 10 seconds and handed my phone back. He said without evidence of an actual person trespassing, there was nothing they could do. I asked what kind of evidence they needed, and he said video footage or a clear description of the trespasser. I almost laughed. How do you describe a Bigfoot to someone who doesn't believe they exist? What would I even say? I am completely alone in this. Nobody believes me, nobody can help me, and I don't have the resources to save myself. I'm trapped in this cabin with a Bigfoot that's getting more aggressive every day, and I don't know what to do. Every option I can think of leads nowhere. Every door is closed. Every path leads to failure. Last night was the worst yet. The Bigfoot pounded on my door continuously for 20 minutes. Not the polite knocking from before, the 3 measured knocks asking for attention. This was aggressive, demanding pounding that made the door shake in its frame and the hinges groan. I could hear it breathing heavily between the impacts, could hear it moving around on the porch, boards creaking under its weight. It sounded frustrated, almost angry, like it was done being patient, like it had given me enough chances to respond, and now it was demanding an answer. When I finally worked up the courage to look through the peephole, all I could see was dark fur pressed against the other side. It was leaning right up against my door, so close that the peephole was blocked by its body. I could hear its breathing through the door, loud and heavy. I jerked back and waited, heart hammering in my chest, sure that this was it. This was the night it was going to break down the door and come in. I stood there with my kitchen knife, knowing how useless it would be against something that strong, but holding it anyway because it was all I had. But eventually it stopped pounding and moved away. I listened to its footsteps cross the porch and move around to the side of the cabin. Then I heard it out back by my woodpile. The sounds of logs being thrown around, wood clattering and rolling. This morning when I looked, it had pushed over the entire woodpile I'd spent weeks building. Split logs scattered everywhere, some thrown 30 feet from where they'd been stacked. My tools thrown around the yard, my shovel bent, my rake broken. The axe was buried in a tree trunk about head height, like it had thrown it in frustration. The blade was buried deep in the wood, so deep I couldn't pull it out. I had to leave it there. The Bigfoot is acting territorial now, like it's trying to drive me away, trying to claim this property as its own. Or maybe it's trying to punish me for not responding, for not answering the door, for hiding inside instead of facing it. But I can't leave. Where would I go? How would I survive? And if I do manage to leave somehow, what happens to the next person who buys this place? Do they go through the same nightmare I'm going through? Am I responsible for whatever happens to them because I didn't warn them, because I couldn't stop this thing? I don't have any good options left. Every choice leads to something bad. Stay here and wait for the Bigfoot to eventually break in or hurt me. Try to scare it off with a gun and risk making it violent, risk getting killed in the attempt. Leave and lose everything, condemn myself to homelessness in winter, probably freeze to death in my truck before spring. There's no right answer. There's no good way out of this. So that's where I am. That's my situation. A Bigfoot has been stalking me for 6 months. It's getting more aggressive every day, and I'm trapped here with no way out. It's out there right now, I can guarantee it. Somewhere in those trees, watching my cabin, waiting for night to fall. As soon as the sun goes down, it'll come back. It always does. And I'll sit here in my cabin, door barred, windows locked, knife in hand, waiting to see what it does tonight. Wondering if tonight is the night everything changes. I honestly don't know how much longer I can take this. The fear, the sleep deprivation, the constant sense of being hunted. I feel like I'm losing my mind, but I know I'm not. This is real. The Bigfoot is real. And it's not going away. If anything, it's getting more insistent, more demanding, more present in my life. 6 months ago, it was just footprints and sounds. Now it's standing on my porch in broad daylight, knocking on my door, expecting me to respond. So I'm asking you, anyone who's reading this or watching this, what should I do? What would you do in my situation? Have you ever dealt with anything like this? Does anyone have any advice, any suggestions at all? Because I'm running out of ideas and I'm running out of time. Should I try to scare it off somehow? Set up loud noises, bright lights, something to make it uncomfortable? Should I try to leave it alone, hope it eventually gets bored and moves on to bother someone else? Should I just abandon the place and figure out survival later, deal with being homeless and broke, and hope I can somehow make it through winter? I'm afraid this Bigfoot is going to get violent soon. I can feel it building to something. The way it's testing my defenses, the way it's getting more aggressive, more demanding, the way it destroyed my woodpile last night, threw my tools around, buried the axe in a tree. It's only a matter of time before it does something really bad. Maybe it's already decided to hurt me and it's just waiting for the right moment. Maybe it's waiting for me to make a mistake. The worst part is how curious it's become. It's not just watching me anymore. It's studying me, learning everything about me, figuring out my patterns and my weaknesses. It knows when I wake up, when I go to sleep, when I'm most vulnerable. It knows what I eat, what I do all day, how I spend my time. It's been watching me for months now, and I don't know what conclusions it's reached. I don't know what it thinks of me. I don't know what it wants from me. It's drawing nearer to my cabin every day, getting more comfortable being close to me, spending more time on my property. Last week, it was just walking around outside at a distance. This week, it's touching my door, standing on my porch, knocking to see if I'll answer. What's next week going to bring? Is it going to try to break in? Is it going to grab me the next time I step outside? Is it going to hurt me just to see what happens? I need help. I need advice. I need someone to tell me what to do because I'm out of ideas and I'm running out of time. Please, if you've experienced anything like this, if you know anything about Bigfoot behavior, if you have any suggestions at all, let me know. Leave a comment, send me a message, anything. I'll try anything at this point. Because tonight, that Bigfoot is going to come back, and tomorrow night, and every night after that until something changes. And I don't know how much longer I can sit here waiting for something terrible to happen. I don't know how much longer I can live like this, trapped in this cabin, jumping at every sound, terrified of the dark. What would you do? Seriously, put yourself in my shoes. What would you do if you were trapped on remote property with no money, no help, no way out, and a Bigfoot stalking you every single night? How would you handle it? What choice would you make? I'm asking because I genuinely don't know anymore. I've run out of answers, I've run out of plans. All I have left is hope that someone out there has been through this and knows what to do. Hope that someone has advice that might save me. Because I'm running out of time and I'm running out of courage, and I don't think I can survive much longer like this. What would you do?